Have you ever watched those shows on TV that show how cluttered some people's houses are? Like, I think one of them's called Clean House, or Hoarding. Like in Clean House, they're these terribly cluttered houses, and they go in and get rid of all the clutter and make it look much better. In Hoarding, the hoarders, it's like the clutter has become mountainous. It's like they live in almost a garbage can. It's terrible. Well, you're probably wondering why I'm talking about clean houses and clutter, but it occurred to me the other day that writing is a lot like that. And so my topic today is how to declutter your writing. There are many ways that you can improve your writing, but one that I know of that will cause amazing results overnight and make your writing so much better immediately is to just do some decluttering, just like they do on Clean House or for people who work with the hoarders. So I want to talk about that. How do we declutter our writing? Well, first of all, what do we mean by clutter? In writing, clutter is when you use words that you really don't need, like someone is very unique. You don't need the very. So anything that's extra that doesn't need to be there, that's clutter. Also, sometimes we use big fancy words because we think they make us sound smart, when in reality they just kind of make it harder to figure out what we're talking about. So clutter is also using the big fancy words when a nice little word would do the job. Okay, so what do you do to get rid of clutter? Number one, you just have to write while you're thinking the fewest words I can possibly use, the shortest, clearest words that I can possibly use. So you got that sort of sitting on your shoulder and you're thinking about that. Here's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. He said, "The most valuable of all talents is that of never using two words when one will do." All right, but that's not where it stops. Because to be a good writer, you can't just write down your first draft and be done. Stephen King even admits that he does 2 drafts. Well, the rest of us have to do numerous drafts. The second thing you have to do is take what you've written and go back and get rid of the clutter. Throw it out just like they do on the TV shows. You've got to go back and look at it and reread it and reread it. William Zinsser, another fellow who writes about writing, he said, to write clean English, you have to examine every word you put on paper. Okay, well, let's do some examples. Here's a sentence that one of my students wrote, and it's got some major clutter in it that we could get rid of. Throughout this poem, readers are observing that the poem is about a traveler who has probably traveled for a while and has come upon 2 roads. Okay, well, that probably has more clutter than it's got meaning. So I've marked out and marked out, and what I ended up with is the poem is about a traveler who has come upon 2 roads. I got rid of about half the words. It's clearer. It sounds much better. So Dr. Islam will have a handout for you, and there's some practice exercises where just a few, where you can practice marking things out so that they sound better. Here's another example. One student wrote, "There are 2 types of reading in which we partake." Well, he's trying to sound a little fancy there. Do some striking out, and you just end up with something like, "There are 2 types of reading." That's what you meant anyway. Another one, here's one. "In my personal opinion, this is an excellent book due to the fact that it is colorful and funny." Well, my personal opinion. Okay, your opinion is always personal. And you know what? We know it's your opinion because you're writing that anyway. So get rid of all of that and just say, "This book is colorful and funny." That's all you need to say. So there are a couple of exercises in there like that. Also on the back, you'll see there are just some little phrases to watch out for. Anytime you say "I think" or "my point of view" or "my personal opinion," get rid of it. Okay? We don't need it. Also, it is interesting to note that, well, don't tell us it's interesting, just tell us what it is. Due to the fact that, or owing to the fact that, you really just mean because. So just say "because." a lot of my students, because I teach in the College of Education, a lot of my students will use the word educator. Why not just say teacher? They'll use the word utilize when use is clearer. A couple of my students last week wrote papers and they used the word delve. They were going to delve into something, and I thought, well, what do you mean, just look into something or find out? So this will give you some examples, just as reminders to be as clear as you can. Don't try to be fancy. Of course, sometimes on those shows, like on Clean House, they get rid of some clutter, but they also bring in some new furniture. And that's kind of like when you're revising. Yeah, there's stuff you get rid of. Sometimes you kind of have to bring in, maybe your table isn't right. You've got to bring in a new table. Sometimes you have to change your wording. You have to bring in some new words. And so I have some examples on here of sentences where you can kind of get at what the student meant to say, but they got to get rid of some stuff and they just need to rephrase it a little bit. I sort of think of that as stage 2 of cluttered writing. Stage 1, just a few extra words here and there, just kind of a little irritating for your reader. Stage 2 is you've got so many extra words, or so many big words that it's starting to get hard to tell what you mean. And stage 3 is like the hoarders. Stage 3 is where there's so much clutter that, oh my goodness, it's really kind of meaningless. It's turned into garbage. And sometimes we have to admit that what we wrote is garbage and it needs to go in the garbage can. But you know what? Here's another quote. This one says, "It is perfectly okay to write garbage as long as you edit brilliantly." And what that's trying to say is everybody writes garbage at first. My first draft of anything is mostly garbage. But writing really starts to take place when you go back and work on it. So let it be garbage at first, but don't let it stay that way. Here's just a couple of examples of sentences where my students have, I think, gone into stage 3. I think it's just turned into meaninglessness here. See what you think. Here's one that says, "Children are able to read an endless number of unlimited uses of the human imagination." Okay, I have no idea what that meant. I think that's just garbage and we need to toss it. Here's another one. "In all educational facilities, subjects, and testing, there is a necessity for reading because of this essential part of learning." There might be an inkling of meaning in there, but it sure is hard to know what the writer meant. I think we need to toss it. Oh, here's one more. "All the imagery and insight that are observed throughout the poem are stepping stones to what the poem truly wishes to accomplish." I don't know what that means either. So good writing means rereading every sentence, deciding, do I need every word in there? And does every sentence really say something? Or is it just kind of got a lot of clutter? Or has it got so much clutter that, really, it just needs to go into the trash can? If you do that, take time to revise, take time to throw out the clutter, your writing is going to get so much better. And also, I've got a couple of really wonderful online resources to recommend, places where you can go. You can watch little videos about different aspects of writing. You can do worksheets. You can take quizzes. So if you need to work on your writing, and guess what? We all do. This is a great place to go. One of them is called the Guide to Grammar and Writing, and one of them is the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and their web addresses are on the handout. So I hope this will kind of help you think about what decluttering can do for you, and I hope you enjoy the handout, and thank you very much for your attention.